This is Ben Solo. You may know him as Kylo Ren, that guy with the high-waisted pants, part of one of the coolest fights in Star Wars history, one half of a truly insane amount of fanfics, and a strong contender for worst son of all time. He's also dead, which I guess is a spoiler if you'd only ever known Star Peace. But much like Palpatine, Ben Solo was somehow going to return, until the true Phantom Menace, corporate politics, threw the movie known as The Hunt for Ben Solo into the proverbial Sarlacc pit. Welcome back to Nerdist News, folks. I'm Dan Casey, and today we are clearly talking about the most buzzed about Star Wars movie that almost happened, but didn't. The Hunt for Ben Solo. Now, in case you've been encased in carbonite, Adam Driver recently dropped a seismic charge on fans of the galaxy far, far away. Speaking with the Associated Press, Adam Driver revealed that he and Steven Soderbergh spent 2 years developing a Star Wars film for Disney that was ultimately fed into the garbage masher of history. While we're supposedly getting a post-sequel Rey movie from director Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, it seemed like the book had closed on the artist formerly known as Kylo Ren. Unless, of course, you asked Ben Solo himself, Adam Driver. He felt that Ben Solo had unfinished business after the sequel trilogy, so he took a concept for a film set in the wake of The Rise of Skywalker to Soderbergh, with whom he had previously collaborated on the criminally underrated Logan Lucky. It's a great movie.
My life of crime is over.
As the title suggests, the movie would have likely focused on the whereabouts of this eponymous character who goes missing after somehow surviving the events at Palpatine's super-secret Coliseum on Exegol in The Rise of Skywalker. The title could have also referred to the character's struggle to find himself again after letting the Kylo Ren identity subsume him for so long. A metaphorical hunt for Ben Solo, if you will. And I will. Now, regardless, Driver told the Associated Press, quote, "It was one of the coolest scripts I'd ever been a part of," end quote. Now, that all sounds well and good, right? I mean, a sequel about one of your most popular characters with a critically acclaimed director attached to it, that should be a done deal, right? Well, there are plenty of ideas like that, ones that feel like no-brainers on paper, that die a slow death in the Mustafarian fires of development hell. Case in point, Lucasfilm has developed countless Star Wars movies that never got the green light to punch it to light speed. Taika Waititi was supposed to make a Star Wars, Kevin Feige was supposed to produce a Star Wars, Logan director James Mangold was going to make a Boba Fett movie, Guillermo del Toro was going to make a Jabba the Hutt solo film. The list goes on and on and on. In fact, it's such a big list, we'll probably make a separate video just about that. Now, the reason I bring all of this up is that someone at Lucasfilm clearly saw the vision behind each of those projects.
I can't see.
But for one reason or another, they never materialized. Usually they don't get too far in the process, some get closer to reality than others, but making a movie is a long and arduous ordeal, especially before you get the green lightsaber. Now, as it turns out, The Hunt for Ben Solo was allegedly internally greenlit and preparing to staff up when it was cut down in its prime. In a follow-up report from The Playlist, the project, codenamed Quiet Leaves, had a completed script, the full creative stamp of approval from Lucasfilm, including Kathleen Kennedy, and was greenlit internally before being canceled by Disney executives Bob Iger and Alan Bergman. Now, you might think it's a simple matter of economics. The script was written by Logan Lucky's Rebecca Blunt and finished by Contagion writer Scott Z. Burns, who was reportedly paid more than any screenwriter in Lucasfilm history to complete the screenplay. While that detail may seem eyebrow-raising at first, it's not necessarily a reflection of the projected production costs for a movie like this. Driver told the AP, "We wanted to be judicial about how to spend money and be economical with it, and do it for less than most, but in the same spirit of what those movies are, which is handmade and character-driven. Empire Strikes Back being, in my opinion, the standard of what those movies were." So maybe it wasn't economics, because the actual alleged reason for why the film couldn't be made was narrative continuity. The big issue was Disney execs being confused about how Ben Solo could be alive when we saw him die in The Rise of Skywalker. And look, to be fair, this is Star Wars. This is a franchise where people famously never come back from apparent deaths in any way, shape, or form.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Except for him. Soderbergh took to Blue Sky to drop yet another bomb, writing, "Also, in the aftermath of the Hunt for Ben Solo situation, I asked Kathy Kennedy if Lucasfilm had ever turned in a finished movie script for greenlight to Disney and had it rejected. She said no, this was a first." Folks, like a crab's anus, the butt gets even scuttlier, because according to the playlist, internally that reaction surprised Lucasfilm leadership, who reportedly felt the story's logic was clear and creatively sound. Several people close to the production interpret this decision as politically motivated, coinciding with Iger's efforts to position Bergman as his successor at Disney. Look, on paper I get it, that sucks, but it's pretty tonally consistent with Star Wars if you think about it. It quite literally isn't a story the Jedi would tell you now. And honestly, if Disney was so concerned with narrative continuity, maybe they should have listened to Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi.
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
Or maybe that only applies when it comes to decanonizing Star Wars Legends books until Dave Filoni airdrops them into the many Mandoverse spin-offs. And perhaps that notion of blind devotion to narrative continuity is part and parcel of the problem. That line from Kylo Ren, undeniably a banger, but there's a lot to unpack there. Back in 2018, I was feeling pretty annoyed by the increasing granularity with which Star Wars as a franchise seemed to try and retread the same characters and narrative ground. So I wrote about it and made a video about it as well. So to paraphrase myself, accepting the past, or in this case narrative continuity, and understanding it is essential to informing the present and the future. Because it seems like Disney execs feel beholden to the sequel trilogy's past in a way that hinders good storytelling in the future. And to me, the sequel trilogy suffers from a similar problem as the prequel trilogy: not enough tongue-shaped merchandise. Sorry, I mean to say they seem like a good idea on paper, but the execution was flawed.
It's another Death Star.
Well, at least the prequel trilogy seemed like a good idea on paper, with its story about how a chosen one was supposed to bring balance to the Force, but was tempted by dark powers to help plunge a galaxy into war and install an autocratic regime of space fascists. That story did come through, but not nearly as well as George Lucas intended if you only watch the movies.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
Shows like The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels gave this time period a much richer texture, expanding on those themes and telling thoughtful, compelling stories that make sense within that existing framework. And for all of its narrative whiplash, confusing creative choices, and deus ex machina, the sequel trilogy is not entirely without merit. It feels like there's a lot of narrative ground left to tread, and that is a gap The Hunt for Ben Solo could have filled in a meaningful fashion. So you might be wondering, why is all of this just coming out now? Well, some fans were wondering if Adam Driver was maybe trying to emulate Ryan Reynolds, who recently seemingly admitted to being that mystery person who leaked the Deadpool test footage back in 2014. Yeah, some mystery, buddy. However, according to the playlist, that isn't the case. Both filmmakers, Adam Driver and Steven Soderbergh, reportedly consider the project permanently shelved and are no longer bound by NDAs or any contractual restrictions, as the film is classified internally as dead. And since the news broke, enterprising fans have taken it upon themselves to mount an imperial resistance to the House of Mouse's No Country for Old Men stance. No, not you, I meant Ben Solo. I realize that sounds like Ben Kenobi, but I'm talking about Kylo Ben. Anyway, Collider reported that Star Wars fans recently had a plane fly over Disney's Burbank, California studio with a banner reading "Save the Hunt for Ben Solo." They also reported on a billboard campaign taking shape in New York City's Times Square. This massive digital billboard reads, "For Adam, no one's ever really gone. Hope lives. Ben is alive. #THBS." Now, this might seem like an extreme measure at first, but you have to remember, fan campaigns can work. Save Daredevil led to Daredevil Born Again, and, like it or not, Release the Snyder Cut did actually get the Snyder Cut released. It's impossible to say that this campaign won't be effective, but it might take some time. It took 2 years for Daredevil to be born again, and 5 years for Zack Snyder to revisit the Justice League. So if you're waiting for a Ben Solo movie, you might want to pump your brakes and take a nice long nap, because it's gonna be a while before Disney cries uncle. For now, though, it seems like rumors of Ben Solo's death were not exaggerated. As for what the future holds in the galaxy far, far away on the big screen, our next stop is The Mandalorian and Grogu, which hits theaters on May 22nd, 2026, and that will be followed by Sean Levy's Star Wars Starfighter starring Ryan Gosling. After that, big old question mark, but my guess would be the Rey Solo movie.
Rey Skywalker.
The Rey Skywalker movie. Or maybe James Mangold's other in-development Star Wars project sent 25,000 years before the events of A New Hope. Only time will tell, or maybe we can find a way into the world between worlds, and that will tell too. Anyway, folks, there you have it. That's everything you need to know about the hunt for Ben Solo and why the internet is so up in arms about it. We'll keep our eyes peeled for any other clues about Ben Solo's whereabouts and anything else of interest in the galaxy far, far away over on Nerdist.com. And if you really want to make sure you don't miss a thing, make sure to sign up for the Nerdist newsletter. It delivers the coolest news from around the galaxy much, much closer directly to your inbox each and every Friday. For now, though, tell us, what do you think about this news? Do you want The Hunt for Ben Solo to be a real movie? What canceled or abandoned Star Wars project do you want to see most? And why is it Leda Calligridis' Knights of the Old Republic movie? Just give it to me. Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, make sure you stay tuned to Nerdist.com.